Hey Trinity, how's it going? Here in my home office. How's your home office going for you? By the way, I hate mine. I'm tired of this. Are you tired of it? I actually told some coworkers that this is gonna be a weird week. I just knew that stuff was really gonna start to get squirrely in our world and around here. It's an extraordinary Easter week, and we're going through the Holy Week on our videos this week, and the first Holy Week was an extraordinary week as well. We saw Pastor Paul talk about Monday, and he called it Grumpy Monday. If I was going to entitle Tuesday anything, I'd maybe call it Teaching Tuesday, because as we look at the Gospel of Mark and we see what occurred on Tuesday, it's filled with Jesus teaching all kinds of things, which makes sense because he knows what's coming. He knows he's about to leave. He's kind of getting all his last minute cram sessions in with his disciples. So I want us to look at a couple things that we see him teaching his disciples. And I think we can see some parallels for today. He talked about the fig tree yesterday, Paul did. And we're picking up right where it left off in Mark 11, verse 20. It says, as they passed by in the morning, they saw the fig tree withered away to its roots. And Peter remembered and said to him, Rabbi, look, the fig tree that you cursed has withered. It's just always kind of weird. It's like, oh, Jesus, what you said actually happened. It's like, yeah, Peter, of course. And Jesus answered them, have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And whenever you stand praying, forgive, if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also, who is in heaven, may forgive your trespass. And I think it's interesting that in that passage, he's saying, have faith. You can do great things, believe. But then he throws in this line about forgiveness. And in some way, there's an important relationship between our ability to exercise faith and walk in faith and forgive other people. And I've thought about this in the midst, in the context of what Jesus is teaching. And I think he knows his disciples are in for some tough times. It's going to be really important in times of tribulation that we practice forgiveness and that we exercise forgiveness to other believers, because we're really going to need each other as things get tough and as things are extraordinary. And then he spends the rest of chapter 12 with other teachings as well. And then we get into chapter 13, and he's teaching here as well. And this is the passage that talks about the signs of the end of the age. And, this passage, it gets taken in all strange directions in normal circumstances. When we have cataclysmic and strange events like this, people really begin to have a heyday with these types of passage and enter into what I call apocalyptomania. And I just want to warn you against that, about thinking too drastically with some of these things. And some of people actually look at this passage in Mark 13, and some of them wonder, well, how much of this is talking about what occurs in 70 AD at the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem? Because it seems like a lot of the stuff was talking about that. And then other people say, yeah, it seems like some, but it seems like there's not just that there's more that's going on here as well. So how much of it is beyond that in talking about the return of Christ? And sometimes we get into speculation about these passages, and it's an exercise of missing the point. Because I think there's actually a unified theme throughout all of scriptures in the New Testament that talk about the times of the end, that talk about times of tribulation. And it's this continuous theme of how we ought to live in light of the difficult times. And so actually, regardless of whatever speculation that might exist about things, one thing we can be certain of, that we are called to be on our guard, and we're called to be awake. If you just look in chapter 13, go down to verse 9 and look how it starts. But be on your guard. And then continuing on into verse 23, Jesus says again, but be on your guard. And then moving down into verse 33, be on your guard, keep awake. And then down to the end of verse 34, stay awake. And then this is how this chapter ends in verse 37. And I say to you, and what I say to you, I say to all, stay awake. This is the call that he gives to his followers in difficult times. Be on your guard. Stay awake. Be alert. Be aware of your conduct. And really have a razor's sharp eye on how you're behaving and how you're acting and how you're treating other people. Be quick to forgive. Be quick to exercise faith. Don't be dominated by fear, but be confident in faith. And, I just thought of these three things, and I thought of something that we got information about this past week, that the governor encourages all of us, whenever we go outside, to put on masks. That we should be putting on masks whenever we go out in the public. And I want to encourage you to do this. Not that you shouldn't do that. But here's what I want you to do. When you go outside, when you interact with others, put on kindness. That's what's going to get us through this. And that's what our world desperately needs, is they need people who will put on kindness and demonstrate kindness to one another. And so as we continue on through this extraordinary week, we look towards tomorrow evening and worshiping with David and Sarah, and we look towards Good Friday, and we look towards Easter Sunday. All unique, all extraordinary. It's important to keep in mind that the first Holy Week was extraordinary as well. And what Jesus told his disciples is the same thing that we need to hear today. Have faith, forgive others, stay awake, and put on kindness. So I hope you'll do that this week. Look forward to seeing you all tomorrow night in our worship time at 7 o'clock on Facebook Live. See you then.